What is the thing, right? Think of it as like the anchor product, the anchor experience. If you have a 310-foot roller coaster, that may potentially be the thing. For example, don't know why I chose that arbitrary number. It's definitely one of the things. It could be the signature exhibit, the signature attraction. You have the thing that people are coming to spend money for. Yet, surrounding that might be a lot of other things that, yes, you've put in place as kind of fillers, yet they end up proving to be a lot more valuable than perhaps initially expected by the guest or the operator.
What's the one premier event that brings the global attractions industry together? IAPA Expo 2025, happening in Orlando, Florida, November 17th through the 21st.
From breakthrough technology to world-class networking and immersive education, IAPA Expo 2025 is where you find possible.
And just for our audience, you'll save $10 when you register at iapa.org/IAPA Expo and use promo code EXPO, APROS 10.
Don't miss it. We won't.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going fantastically, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing great. In fact, how was your summer?
My summer was really, really good. As you know, I got to go to Europe and visit some parks, and it was a really good summer. How about yours?
It was really good. While I did not go to Europe, not this summer at least, I have in my head a family trip planned there in the next 5 years or so that is very broad and expansive and includes many, if not all, of the parks that you went to, plus probably ambitiously a few others as well. So I don't know if
Nice.
we'll be able to. It'll be all of Europe. It'll just hit every single park in Europe. But
Love it.
I did have a really good summer in that I was able to do some travel with my family, domestic within the United States, some even just within our city, some just some family destinations and traveling just all together. And working in this industry, and I know that you know this, and this was the case when you were on your trip in Europe, is we can't really power down that part of our brain that thinks about the industry and thinks about our area, our respective areas of focus that we're passionate about. So I started just accumulating a list of guest experience observations from sporting events to vacation destinations to theme parks, from just a kind of a wide variety, even restaurants in certain travel destinations that I was at. And I've compiled this list of 10 observations from the summer of 2025 related to guest experience.
Well, I am on the edge of my seat. I cannot wait to hear
Awesome.
what these observations are. Take it away.
All right. So I'm just going to go through this whole list right here. We'll knock them out and then we'll see what we want to talk about. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Number one, parking is an excellent revenue source, as we all know that. Charging an exorbitant amount for parking, however, is a surefire way to create a horrible first impression that will cascade into the rest of the visit. Number two, it's commonly said that guests don't read signs. Supplement verbiage on signage with audio announcements and, better yet, personalized announcements. If you have a sign with 15 rules on it in small font, don't be surprised if a guest doesn't read rule number 7. Number 3, the basics, including greeting the guest first, making eye contact, and projecting a friendly attitude, can't be taken for granted. These are foundational for any experience. Number 4, sometimes the best thing you can do for your guests is focus on making them more comfortable and removing stress from their visit. Number 5, a great way to increase in-park spending or ancillary per cap is to put the product directly into the guest's hands and remove the effort to complete the transaction. Meet the guests where they are, carry a handheld scanner, and embrace the fact that digital payments are commonplace nowadays. That might be a little more tactical than a lot of the ones on the rest of the list, but it was a mind-blowing observation that I had. Number 6, improve wayfinding by directly seeking feedback from your most confused guests. You know the layout of your venue like the back of your hand, but it is a completely foreign environment to most of your guests, especially if they're flustered or stressed already. Number 7, we all know being understaffed negatively impacts the guest experience, but so is being overstaffed if it leads to miscommunication and errors in the steps of service, not just blowing your labor budget out of proportion. Number 8, when a guest plays an active role in their experience, it enhances satisfaction and makes the experience more repeatable. Look at the most passive components of your experience and think about how you can give the guest more control over the outcome. Number 9, guests should not be able to tell the difference between team members who are employed by the venue and third-party concessionaires. If the level of service is notably different, one of them needs to raise their standards to meet the other. And finally, number 10, sometimes the thing you think is the thing isn't the thing, and the thing you'd never think could be the thing might actually be the thing. I can add some more context to this one.
I feel like each one of these probably has a story behind it, or a couple of stories, knowing your different experiences. But I would love to start with that last one and the thing. And if I could go back and hear that clip again, I would love to count how many times you said the word thing.
Sometimes the thing you think is the thing isn't the thing, and the thing you'd never think could be the thing might actually be the thing. 6.
6. Okay, six things.
That's like in that sense. So, what is the thing, right? Think of it as like the anchor product, the anchor experience. If you have a 310-foot roller coaster, that may potentially be the thing. For example, don't know why I chose that arbitrary number. It's definitely one of the things. It could be the signature exhibit, the signature attraction. You have the thing that people are coming to spend money for. Yet, surrounding that might be a lot of other things that, yes, you've put in place as kind of fillers, yet they end up proving to be a lot more valuable than perhaps initially expected by the guest or the operator. So the 2 examples that I have from this was my wife and I, we took our 4-year-old son to a baseball game, and it was like 100 degrees outside, and he was doing great. He made it to the 7th inning stretch. And then immediately after taking me out to the ball game, he said, I'm tired. I want to go home. And we were like, you know what? This was a pretty good run, and the Cubs are losing pretty badly, so it's okay. He's made it to the end of a game before. It was not his first game, and he got to see the Cubs win at his first game. So we're like, okay, we can make our way out of the stadium. Right in front of the stadium is this splash area with all these fountains, and like kids are running through it, like parents are running through it, and the kids are just like getting soaking wet and just having a great time. And especially with it being like 100 degrees outside, we're like, let's stop right here. Well, fortunately, they've got the game playing on a big screen at the end of the plaza right here, and there's a bar there. So I sat, had a beer. My wife spent time with our son. I got to watch the end of the game, and he had an absolute blast. When we were actually, I had to like pull him away, like kicking and screaming when it was time to go home. And when we asked him, what was the most fun you had going to the Cubs game today at Wrigley Field? He said, the splash pad. That's not the thing that you'd think would be the thing. You'd think it would be the baseball player, and that he got to see like his favorite baseball players in real life and see them hit the ball and all that. Another one as well as we were on vacation, and you've seen those gem mining experiences.
Absolutely.
I've seen them. I've had clients that had them. I am not the demographic for it, so I'll be the first to just tell you, I don't get it. I don't understand why you're going to pay for a bag of dirt and then just take the rocks out of it. So for those who are not familiar, you buy a bag of dirt and then you run it underwater and then you take the rocks. I'm probably the worst person to actually sell this as well, because this is not an experience for me. So we did it, and my son, he had fun doing it. He thought like the rocks were really cool. And then he had some older cousins who were going to go do the ropes course and the rock wall and the zip line that he's just not quite big enough to do yet. But it didn't matter because he was so focused on the water coming out of this little waterfall right here, and the fact that he was taking the dirt and he was making mud and he was taking the rocks and he was shoving it into him. I had 30 minutes of him just having equally as great of a time of his life as he was in that splash area at Wrigley Field. So even though that wasn't the thing, that even the thing in the gem mining is the experience of seeing the water go through the dirt and finding out what rocks and then checking the paper guide that you have from it and then take your rocks home, I guess. We didn't take our rocks home, but that's because he had also forgotten about it. But the thing became actually the experience that he had with the water feature on the thingamajig.
Which was another thing, but
Yeah.
not the thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think this goes to show how important it is that you are creating experiences around the experience. You know,
Mhm.
and the Wrigley Field example is a perfect one because not only do you have an experience for the kids out there, you also have an experience for the parents. And you have someone that, you know, maybe you wanted to see the end of the game and you were really excited about it, even though the Cubs were losing.
That's pretty bad.
Now you can sit out there, you've got a beer, you can watch your son in the splash pad, and everybody's happy. Now,
Everybody
should they put,
wins.
what's that?
Everybody wins. Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Should
Well,
they,
not everybody.
not the Cubs apparently that day. Should they put a splash pad inside the stadium? Probably not. But understanding that there's an experience that people are paying for and that they want to go be part of, but then what is it that gets them to that experience, or what is that those ancillary experiences that they have that can either extend the time that people are spending because they got more money out of you for buying the beer, right?
That's flashback told me a beer. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So it makes me think of two things. Number one is the walkway into City Walk from the parking garages at Universal Orlando Resort, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen people on those moving walkways, kids running up and down, back and forth, and their parents are like, "Come on inside, there's real rides. Let's
This
go,
is
let's
not the
go."
thing.
This is not the thing. But the other thing this reminded me of is when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, I asked my parents for a pile of dirt for my birthday. And they got me a pile of dirt. Now, could I have wanted a jungle gym or some cars or a remote control boat or something? Probably that could have been the thing. But all I wanted was a pile of dirt so I could play with my cars and do the thing with my cars, right? So that was probably an unexpected ask for a 7-year-old, and maybe your son, when he's 7, will ask for the same thing. But that was something that they probably didn't expect, was not quote unquote the thing, but it became the thing for me.
So two things actually. One is for everyone out there watching and listening, Matt's birthday is next month. Two, it also reminded me of the baby goats outside the distillery.
Yes,
Not the
100%.
thing,
But
but
a thing,
but the thing. Increased
right?
all time, sold more food and beverage or retail
Abs-
was. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing those. I think that's a great thing to think about when you're considering your experience as a whole. But I also want to go back to a couple of them because you talked about stress. I think it was number 4, making guests more comfortable by removing stress,
Mhm.
and how much stress happens in the course of a normal attraction experience. That stress could start with a complicated website where I don't understand what ticket to get. And then if I don't get the right ticket and I show up and I don't have the right product, then they're not going to let me in. And now it's going to be a source of extra time that I have to spend and embarrassment for me and my family. So it could start there. So being really clear with that could remove stress. That also may mean something we've talked about in the past. It may actually mean removing options, right? Where we try to put so many options. And I know as I've purchased tickets for theme parks, and you can buy parking and you can buy your fast pass and all these different things, and it's great to have all those options, but sometimes those options can be overwhelming. And again, I don't know if I'm actually buying the right thing. So when I get to the gate, if I don't have the right thing, again, it's going to be a source of embarrassment, and I'm not going to want to go through that. So I don't want that stress. So I think your point about looking at your experience and even measuring it from a stress perspective, I think that's a great way to remove some of those stress points, those pinch points that would create a negative experience for your guests without you even knowing it.
And keeping in mind too that stress can come from external factors as well. Stress
Yes.
could be from heavier traffic than expected. Stress could be a kid vomiting in the backseat of the car on the way to the place where you're going, for example, and many others.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm also curious about when you talked about improving wayfinding,
Mhm.
because I remember that's something that I talked about with Europa Park, that I loved not knowing where I was going. So that was a bit of an adventure for me, which was kind of cool. Of course, I did have a map, and there was an app that I could have looked at if I wanted to, and we did look at the map quite a bit. But I think about those, again, those stressors that if I'm looking for something very specific, if I'm not just out there wandering, which is kind of how I approach theme parks sometimes, but if I'm looking for something very specific, like an attraction or a bathroom or a specific food venue, and I can't find it, that raises my stress level.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to allow your guests to have the ability to wander, to be able to get lost if they want to. But some of those maybe physiological needs should be obviously more than just very well marked, right? And but just easy to locate, easy to be able to see or really put in front of them so that they don't have to search for it or find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I'm also really curious about the understaffed, overstaffed experience and how that turned into a learning for you.
Yeah, I was in a restaurant and in a small town, a small beach town, and it was like relatively busy, but it wasn't like totally jam-packed. And there were a lot of us. I think there were 15 of us in total, and we were, sitting at a couple different tables, and there was a server, and like then there was another food runner, then there was another server, and I think I interacted with a different employee every single time someone approached the table. And it quickly became like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and middle hand and second to left hand and third to right hand and all the different hands at play here that you could tell they were all very well intentioned, but there wasn't a streamlined communication amongst the staff. So while they were perhaps attempting to do their job to the best of their ability, it just they kept bumping into each other, figuratively speaking, that then ultimately diminished our experience because orders were either wrong or we went long periods of time without anybody, approaching the table, or they didn't know who was going to who, and it was just kind of a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I appreciate what you say there about it being a mess because to you, you want a stress-free, mess-free experience, right? And so when you've got somebody, and I don't know the specifics of it, if you've got somebody come over to take a drink order, right? And you said it was a lot of people, 15 people, and they take the drink order and somebody else comes over, can I get your drink order? Well, somebody just took it, right? And then, well, that person's not really over here. They're at a different table. Let me go ahead and get the drink order again. Well, now I got to see my drink order again. Like that does not create a welcoming environment when I have to do that again. So,
Right. And was it taken the first time? And am I going to get two drinks now? Yeah. Or is this also going to get lost in it too?
am I going to get charged for two, but only get one?
Yeah.
Potentially. So, yeah, no, I really like that one, especially as I'm, working with a lot of people right now who are talking about either being understaffed or they're saying, we're in a slower period of our business, so we have to cut staff. So we're kind of short staffed because of the amount of business that we have, which I totally get. I think what you're saying though is that can be a challenge, but the overstaffed, having too many people, is a different kind of challenge.
And that's why it was worth bringing up that we always talk about, what do we always talk, I don't know, we often like hear about like, okay, well, we're understaffed, so that's a huge labor challenge. But now it's like, well, it's kind of the other way. Like you're actually spending too much on labor where you could be a little bit more efficient, both from your payroll expenses as well as from your guest experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other one that really struck me was about the third party. Because I know I dealt with this a lot when I was at Universal, and we had a lot of third-party folks that were out in the parks, and we would put them through the same orientation. And there was a whole department that was a liaison for kind of Universal, kind of the home park, and then these third-party vendors to make sure that they were up to speed and that they were, abiding by our same rules and values and things like that. They had a similar name tag and the whole 9 yards, but at the same time, they are still a different company. So again, I'm kind of curious, like what led to this observation?
Well, I wanted to try to be as neutral with the statement, with the observation, but the third party employees were far superior than the employees of the venue themselves. Obviously, I'm not going to say where it was or who it was or what either company was, but you could tell that there was an investment from that company to say we need to not only match but exceed the experience delivered. Now, my observation was a snapshot from the one day that I visited, from the team members that I observed and that I interacted with. So I can't extrapolate that to say culture versus culture, one is far superior than the other. But in that moment, there were a lot of employees who were employed by the venue who were standing around talking to each other and not interacting with guests and actually kind of creating a little bit of a frustrating experience. And those employees who, for most guests, wouldn't be able to tell. I just knew, okay, the only difference is, their paycheck has a different logo on it. They were fully committed to the guest experience, which could be. So I used to work for a third party concessionaire as well, and we pitched that same message of saying that is the only difference. The logo on your paycheck is the only difference between you and a regular park employee, and we need to showcase our standard for the client to elevate the guest experience to make our entire company look good back at headquarters so that it can be a great client vendor relationship, that we show them that we are equally as committed to the guest experience as they are.
Absolutely. Well, and in your case, it sounds like they may have been more committed to the guest experience. And I think there's another piece of that, which I wasn't super involved with, but when you talk about those vendors, if they are not upholding their contract, they might lose the contract, right?
Yep.
So now we could be faced with having, if you're that third party vendor, you may be faced with, okay, the home company's not happy with us anymore, and we're going to lose business, right? So that could be a motivating factor. But also just thinking about the seamless guest experience that you want, to me, that's incumbent upon sort of the quote unquote home company to ensure that the other folks are getting the right tools and resources so that they can be, at least at your level. But then, of course, you have to stay at a higher level as well, right?
Mhm.
To make sure you're maintaining a high level for everyone.
Yep. I will also say that tied in with point number 5 of it was those third party team members who, yes, they were committed to service, but also growing per capita spending as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think you're right that when we go places, it's really tough to turn off those observations. And I would imagine that a lot of our listeners are the exact same way. So I would love to hear some of your observations. So if you would like to share those on the socials, if you'd like to drop us an email at attractionpros@gmail.com, I would love to hear some of your observations and maybe even some lessons you took from them as well.
Yeah. And now, as of at the time of this recording and at the time this episode's going out, we're heading right into Halloween and then the holiday season. So definitely curious to see all the observations that come from the remainder of 2025.
Absolutely. So for all those out there watching and listening, just remember, we are all attraction pros.
And get Matt dirt for his birthday.